Good evening, Lake Orion. Welcome to Lake Orion Football Preview Show on ONTV. I'm your host, Anthony Taormina, and I am joined with three great football players and Coach Blackstock. Coach Blackstock, how are you doing?
Doing great. Excited to be back.
Nice. Players, can you guys introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Mason Slocum. I'm a senior.
Mitch Howell. I play slot and wide receiver, and I'm also a senior.
Kobe Manzo. I play running back. I'm also a senior.
All right, guys, I want to talk to you guys. I want to recap last year. Last year, we went 5-4. We made the playoffs. Got some really, really good road wins. We won at Adams, we won at Southfield A&T, and we won at Monroe. Started off the year 0-2, but made the playoffs, came back, had some good wins, and had the cancer game with Clarkson. Can you guys, I'm going to start with Kobe. I want to recap, what was your take on last season?
Last season, I definitely think the biggest thing for us going from last season to this season is our expectations about winning. Last year, going into the season, previously we had gone 3-6, and we thought that I believe our mindset as a team was, winning was good, and we wanted to win, right? You can never question that as a team we wanted to win. But this year, as we move forward, I think the expectation is that we win. We expect to win. It's no more like wanting to win. It's about expecting to win and going out there and deserving it.
Mason, what's your take?
This last season, it was kind of a wake-up call the first two games. Like, I felt like we had the team. I felt like the team was here together. Like, we wanted to win. But, like, we just couldn't execute. But then later on the season, when we started winning those big away games, like, it really showed that we wanted to play football and that we're here to win and we want to go far in the playoffs.
Mitchell?
I think what Kobe said really summed it up, like in terms of what the expectation is different from what it was last year. But I think like early on we were still in the figuring out stages. Mm-hmm. So those first couple games were not like, you could tell like that wasn't like Orion football. And then we started like get things together, especially with that win at Adams, that like started to get us back on track, and we started playing some Lake Orion football.
Coach Blackstock, I want your take about recap.
Well, I mean, these guys hit it, I think, right on the head. When I think back to 2017, I think that senior class really taught the program about toughness and how to play physical. And then last year, that next step for us was, like Kobe said, the competitiveness and the discipline that goes along with that toughness, which has changed that whole expectation to not just being tough, but being a disciplined toughness, and has created an expectation within the guys on the team that, winning is something that we're getting back to doing, and it's not something we're just hoping to do. It has become the expectation. That's what's exciting about this year.
Awesome. I want to talk about the off season. You guys are involved, players. You guys are involved in other sports. Kobe, you've been involved with powerlifting and baseball. Mitchell, you've been involved with basketball and baseball. And Mason, you've been involved with wrestling. How important is being in other sports preparing you guys for this upcoming season? I'm going to start with Mason first.
I feel like wrestling really prepared me for the season because it's a lot of conditioning and you learn a lot of leverage and like how to attack players with your hands, because that's what it is all in O-line, D-line. You have to get hands first or else you're going to lose the battle. So I feel like wrestling really helped out with that, and also just conditioning and staying in shape.
Mitchell, what's your take?
Anytime you can stay competitive, especially when like if you'd say like football is your main sport, when you're staying competitive in those next two seasons, it's definitely keeping you like number one, like in shape and just like ready to play, like learning new things, using new muscles. So playing multiple sports or another sport is always big, and I think we have a lot of athletes that do that, and it shows.
Kobe?
Definitely agree with Mitchell on that. Being competitive is a skill, and just like any skill, you have to continue to practice that skill in order to be, the best at it you can be. And if you can keep that skill developing throughout the off season, you come back, and you can definitely tell a difference between the people who have kept honing in on that skill of competitiveness and discipline when they hit that football field, and you can tell the people who don't.
Coach Blackstock, what's your take about seeing your players doing other sports?
Yeah, I don't think you need me up here. These guys are doing a great job. I mean, and it's awesome to hear them say it, because it's everything that, for years, that the Lake Orion football coaching staff has preached, multi-sport guys being involved in things outside of the football season, because like Colby said, it's a skill. Whether they're on the wrestling mat or they're in the batter's box or on the free throw line and they're in a pressure situation or dealing with some adversity in the game, that's a skill that they have to get used to and learn how to work through, which then helps them during the football season. You know, when it's 4th and goal and we've got to get a first down or we've got to score the touchdown or we've got to get the stop. So finding ways for them to stay competitive is important to their development, not only as young men, but as football players.
You guys, how important is being in the weight room and also the 7-on-7s? You guys, Mason, how important is those 7-on-7s and being in the weight room? You guys obviously have different experiences with that. Mason, I want to start with you.
I think it really builds a relationship when you're in the weight room. Like, again, with competitiveness, like, you're going to be competitive with your opponent, your teammate, and you want to lift as much weight as them or if more, and they're just going to keep pushing them to work harder. And then the 7-on-7s, I see the guys out there that are working on 7-on-7s, they're building that friendship, they're learning together, they're learning how to play with each other, so I think off-season is really helping us out.
And the reason why, do you participate in the 7-on-7s?
There's O-line, D-line stuff that we do.
Okay.
Yep, so.
I just wanted to see if there was any differences because I know that I wasn't sure if linemen participate in that.
Yep.
Mitchell?
So I think Mason really hit it on the head with the whole like relationships during lifting, and then he does that lineman when we're at 7-on-7, but from like being there at those 7-on-7s, I would say that it gets you to play up to the speed or like close to that speed before you put the pads on. So you're kind of like, it's almost like a glorified scrimmage, just because of like the speed that you have to like learn how, and especially for the younger guys, guys that are coming to be juniors, it's a whole nother game. So like they're kind of like getting their feet wet with 7-on-7.
Kobe?
I agree 100%, especially for the younger guys, including myself. You know, when I was going to be on varsity as a sophomore, and the biggest change from freshman to JV to varsity football is, not only are the athletes bigger, faster, stronger, it's just the overall speed of the game. And so if you can allow your team and, all members of your team to hit the ground running when the season starts, that puts you at an automatic advantage in front of everybody else, because whether we like to face it or not, everybody's doing off-season workouts. Everybody's doing 7-on-7. So anything that you can do to give you the edge over those other teams, to stay out there and build those relationships and be in the weight room and push each other, that's what ultimately is going to help you be successful.
Coach Blackstock, what's your take about the weightlifting 7-on-7s?
Yeah, the 7-on-7 stuff is important in developing that team chemistry between, the offensive skill players and the quarterback with the timing of the passing game. Defensively, it gives you a really great opportunity to work on pass defense and how it all works together and be able to focus on it. So it's a really important aspect of the development of a team throughout the summer. The strength and conditioning, I think we've tried to change how we've done that over the last few years to help guys become better athletes. And I think that's one of the myths that we've been trying to battle is it's not just, it might be called powerlifting, and during the winter they do powerlift, bench, squat, and deadlift, but that's to build that foundational strength. And then as we move out of the winter into the spring, it becomes more of a functional fitness where the focus is on a lot of core, a lot of movement-based stuff where it's full body. And that's not just for football. And I think these guys are seeing the results of that, of when they've been in Coach Booker's strength classes during the school day, that it's helping them in baseball, and it's helping them in basketball, and helping them in wrestling and lacrosse and all those other sports, because to be successful in those sports, you need that strength and conditioning component of it. So we've really tried to battle that myth that strength and conditioning is just for football, and we're only doing football things in there, where I think we're building better athletes overall in what we're doing. And Coach Booker does a phenomenal job in his phys ed class, and we're trying to get more guys in it so then they can still be multi-sport athletes. And then our summer program has followed suit with that in the summer conditioning program.
Awesome. Right, for the players, what is the differences between last year and this year? You guys kind of, when we first started, we talked about that being leaders, and you guys notice any differences between last year and this year? Mitchell, I'm going to start with you.
I think like that core, like just all that junior group that's coming up. I think that we're like real close, probably more close than we were last year, especially like after going through that season. And I think everybody's really excited. Like, we're excited. We want to do some things. You know, we want to get our name out there. And I think it's just going to be a lot of fun, like, seeing what we can do. Yeah.
Mason?
I feel like as us as seniors, we have a bigger leadership role in making those guys that are younger than us better than us, than we are. So then it's next year when they're even better than what we were. So I feel like being a senior is a bigger leadership role.
Kobe?
I definitely agree with that. That's a very hard concept for some people to wrap their head around is, you know, why would I want my backup to be better than me? Like, you know, sometimes there's, as an athlete, when you have that competitive edge and you see somebody that you're competing against going out there and you're doing well obviously you're going to be, you know, while you're proud for them, part of you is like, man, like that could be me, you know? But it's a very difficult concept for some people to understand, like, why would I want to train my backup? But it's just like he said, you know, if somebody goes down in the game, or next, you know, we're not the only team to ever play Lake Orion football. They will be Lake Orion football for years and years after us. So it's all about, you know, creating something that will last for years, not just for a couple weeks during the season. And like we touched on earlier, just an attitude shift and a mental change to our team about, you know, we've always wanted to win. You can't question that. A lot of teams want to win. But not all teams expect to win, and that's what is going to change about us this season.
Coach, what's your take?
Yeah, you know, every year the class that steps into that senior role, their leadership role increases, and I think that's, for us as a coaching staff, most exciting is these guys have been great leaders all the way through. Like, as sophomores, they were great leaders. As juniors, they were great leaders. So there's no concern on our part about them stepping into that senior leadership role. Yeah, it increases a little bit more because now there's more young eyes on them, but these guys really aren't going to change much because they've been such great leaders in those younger years as well.
Awesome. I want to talk to you guys about being mentors to the younger kids. I've seen you guys attend middle school games. I've seen you guys attend the sub-varsity games, freshman JV games. I've seen you guys out speaking to the community. I've seen you guys participate in the Jeff Heath camp. How important is that, being a mentor to the younger kids? Mason, we'll start with you.
I think it just shows them like what they had to take over when they're a senior. Like, they have someone to look up to, and they can watch them on Friday nights playing. And I think it really excites them that they were there for them, supporting them and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it's very important to be a good role model to those guys, because they do see themselves like stepping in the shoes that we are in. And it's really cool, like, they make you feel like you are a little bit bigger deal than you really are, because to them that you are a little bit more special than you consider yourself. But it's cool to like interact with those kids, because that is the future, and like my heart will always be at Lake Orion, so like I'll be coming back to watch those same kids. So I want to make sure I develop like a positive relationship with them.
That's definitely like exactly what I was thinking about. I know Mason, Mitch, and myself, you know, all volunteer our time to go not only like middle school youth camps, the Jeff Heath camp, like you said and you talked about, and it really is, like Mitch said, you know, we're a big deal to those guys, and it can be, you know, you can take that one of two ways. You can let that go to your head, or you know, you can kind of let that humble you. And I believe that that's what we do, is that kind of puts a lot of things in perspective for us. And you know, we might just be high school football players, but are we really just high school football players? I think we have a much bigger platform than some people like to acknowledge, and I think that especially, you know, our audience might be a different audience than some people with large platforms, but I think that that is something that needs to be taken into consideration when you're talking about the next generation of Lake Orion football.
Coach Blackstock, how proud of you?
Yeah, I'm going to put these guys on the spot a little bit just to prove the point of, like, can you guys name somebody that you looked up to when you guys were in the youth league or in middle school or even as a freshman or sophomore that was on the varsity that you looked up to or you remember watching play?
Kraus, that running back.
Matt Krause at running back.
He was insane.
Nick Novak.
Nick Novak in the offensive line, a little bit of defensive line.
I think when I watched that Hornifer game when they played Oxford,
Yeah.
that was
5 touchdowns.
really sweet.
So, and I think like that's the point, that these guys can remember people that they looked up to, so they understand like the bigger picture of it, of these young guys looking up to them, and then someday these young guys that are up, they're going to be the ones leading the young guys, and they have done a great job the last couple of years of, like you said, working with the youth league, working at the Jeff Heath camp, doing the middle school camp, which we've got going on actually this week, and trying to get out to those younger level games of JV and freshmen, and the middle school games and the youth league games to high five and see those guys.
Oh.
It's a neat thing to watch happen. From year to year, that process build.
Yeah. I just wanted to add on to that and say, like, being on varsity as a sophomore, myself and a couple other of the athletes, and going to those JV games and supporting. We had a lot of buddies, obviously, still on those teams, and we had great relationships with those guys. And going to those JV and freshman games and being there to support them and still being part of that team, because it really isn't about what level you're at. We're all part of the same program, and I think that's really important. I think these guys would agree that I have a very good relationship with my middle school football coaches, and going back and seeing them and knowing that I was in those shoes, and like just remembering that, and I think that really will keep you grounded.
How important? I'll ask another question. How important is family, the Lake Orion football family? Kobe, I'll start with you.
Yeah, we have one of the best atmospheres in the state. I don't think that's questioned at all. You get in that stadium on Friday night, and people have a genuine excitement out there. You can feel it, you can see it, and it doesn't matter. The stadium may change, the players will change, but that atmosphere and that excitement, that genuine excitement, is always there. And as a player, and when I come back as a spectator, I don't think that will ever not amaze me. When I walk out into that field and those people are out there, and that's not what we do it for, just for the fans. So like we do it, for ourselves, for our community, for everything. But that definitely helps, because going out there and playing like that, it gives you butterflies every time.
Mason?
I agree with Kobe 100%. Like, the fans gives you like a boost of energy, and you're like, wow, this is amazing. Like, I think nothing can get better than this. So.
Yeah, I think just developing like that relationship with the people that are coming out to those games, but on the other side, like the family that we have as a team, we're together, especially like in these next couple weeks, like more than probably we are with our normal family, so, or close to it. So we already have good relationships, but we keep building on it, and I think it's real important that we make sure that that's important to us, is to be close, so that I don't think that's a secret. I think that the more close you are with your teammates, the better you are on the field. So that is definitely important to us.
How important, speaking of fan support, how important is the fan support? Obviously, your classmates will come to games. You see the community; they'll come out to road games. How important is that support, whether especially at home or on the road? How important is that, Mitchell? I'm going to start with you.
I think it's more important than we make it seem, because we don't want it to make it seem like we're like asking for people to be like that, but really, when people, show that they like care, that makes all that hard work that you've been doing in the summer off season so much more worth it. Especially when you're filling up on Friday nights. That makes it all like feel like it's put together, because that's the ultimate goal. So.
Mason?
I really like the fans that come to the game. Like, they're always there to support you. They always say like hi to you, and they've seen the community. They know who you are. So like I really think that the fan support like really boosts you and your teammates.
Kobe?
I love how it comes full circle. We volunteer at these youth camps and these middle school camps, and here we come out the tunnel on Friday night, and we're giving high fives to the kids that were in our drills maybe a month or two ago, and they remember us, and they have their little shirts, and they're all excited and wound up, and like Mason said, people know you in the community, and they look for that number out in the field. Whether you realize it or not, there's going to be eyes on you. You might not play, but maybe say somebody comes back and they're like looking for their old high school number or something like that. You never know what it is, but when you're on that field, there are eyes on you, and I think that's really special.
Coach Blackstock, same question.
Yeah, obviously our community support is outstanding, and that's what makes Lake Orion athletics, Lake Orion football, just a really special place to be a part of, a special thing to be a part of. Obviously on the road, whenever we travel, we always have a great group behind us, and it's helpful to come out of that locker room in pregame or right before the game starts or during the game and look up in our away stands and at times see more people for us as a visitor than the home team has. And that, I think that really motivates the guys and encourages the guys, whether we're up or whether we're down on the scoreboard. And then obviously at home, I think it's a huge advantage. When we come out there for pregame and the other team shows up and we've got people in the stands during pregame, I think that's a huge advantage because then the other team, it puts them a little bit uneasy. They're kind of in awe of that. And we've had a lot of coaches mention that before games of, gosh, I can't believe this place. It's like an event, and it is an event. We've got so much going on at the games, with the dance teams and the cheerleading and the band. And, they're shooting the T-shirts into the stands with the T-shirt launcher. And there's just so much going on that it's more than just a football game. It's now become an event, which is exciting for so many people to be a part of.
And I'd like to add, our student body is second to none.
Top notch.
That is always packed. It's packed that whole side and then some. And it's really exciting because that they show you that they care, and playing for those people is more important than anything.
And I think that first year in 2017 when we went 3-6 and that student section, every game is still packed and rocking and there to support us. And last year we started out 0-2, which was not fun, not what we wanted or expected. And they hung with us and support us, and we knew that, we could feel that, and that helped us through. I mean, the student section at that Adams game was huge.
And then we sang to them after our fight song, and that was the start of something.
They've hung with us through some tough times, and that's why we're expecting to give them some good times in the very near future.
I wanted to ask this also, the student section that traveled down, or the fan section, I shouldn't say student section, that traveled down to Monroe. What was your take about all those people traveling down to Monroe?
That was absolutely insane. I remember when Coach Blackstock, revealed the schedule to us for the year, and everyone's looking at week 9, because obviously, you pay attention to one game at a time, but you kind of look at the whole schedule, and week 9 is Monroe. First of all, who is that? Second of all, where is that? I mean, it's an hour-and-a-half bus ride south. It's shoot. What are we going to do? So we got down there real early, made sure we stretched out and we're ready to play. And, I think I was part of all of us. We were expecting to go out there and just have, maybe some people from Monroe there. We look over and there's people in green and white up in the stands. I was you guys are crazy. That's not, we love it. We love it. We love playing in front of those guys, and that really gives us a boost out there.
It kind of shows through the weather, no matter what it is, no matter where it is, the fans in the community is always going to be there for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. That Monroe game was something special. I think just the whole atmosphere of it all, especially getting there so early, and just it was completely different. And we know what we had to do, and we went out and did it, and that game was a lot of fun, I think, for everybody. Mm-hmm. And it was also okay, we got something done that we needed to accomplish really bad. Because at that point, we pretty much all knew, that was our ticket into the playoffs, so.
Yeah, I was really impressed with how we handled that game, knowing, what was at stake for us. Coming up to that 5-4, having the most playoff points out of any 5-4 team in the state, just because of that schedule that we play. And going down there against what was a solid Monroe team and coming out with that win, I was really impressed how we handled that under, like Mitch said, very different circumstances than a regular Friday night, would be a home game. It felt like it was a whole day event. You had to mentally and physically prepare yourself for that.
What would you take, Coach?
Yeah, I think it just shows the support of our entire community. Whether they're supporting football on a Friday night, home or away, or one of the other athletic programs, or even just people in our community, when there's a need, when there's somebody sick or there's an accident, our community rallies around its own, which is fun to see, and that's why the Monroe really wasn't a surprise to me. It was great to see so many people down there, but they rally around, their Dragons.
Players, I want to ask you, who are you most looking forward to playing, or are you guys taking it one game at a time? Mason, I'm going to start with you.
Most likely at one game at a time. Yeah, we want to see we want to beat that team in the upcoming season, but mostly it's just first game. So just focusing on that game that's ahead of you instead of the one that's next.
Those blue and gold teams always.
There's two of
I
them.
think that sums it up.
There's two of them we see that are blue and gold.
Yeah.
Kobe?
Definitely, there are certain teams that maybe feel a little bit better after the win, but I agree with Mason 100%. And the coaches too, we prepare one game at a time, and we really break down our opponent and put ourselves, and they do a great job of putting us in a situation, where we're able to succeed. And I think that's where our coaching staff does a really nice job, is breaking down everything, things that I would have never thought of about our opponents, and really putting the players in great spots.
Players, what's your guys' expectation this upcoming season? Let's start with Mason.
Well, obviously the expectation is to win every game, but I really think just making a relationship with the younger guys and building them up for next year is one of the big goals and expectations that I have for this season.
Mitchell?
I think our expectation is just getting better every day, every game, every practice. As long as we keep progressing, throughout the season, I think that's important for us. So, yeah.
Kobe?
Definitely, I think back to when Coach Blackstock took over, he kind of shook the cage that was Lake Orion football a little bit. We changed into a drastically different style of football and offense, and right away we might have not seen the results after that 3-6 season, our sophomore year. But then you look at it last year, we go up to 5-4, we make the playoffs, something that I'm sure a lot of people did not think was going to happen. And I think now it's just this is our year. This is the culmination of what we've been working at the last couple of years. And I believe that this year is just as important as every other year has been in showing where we're at, what we've come from, and now what we can become.
All right. Thank you guys for coming on. We'll be right back with the Lake Orion Football Preview Show on ONTV.
Have you ever wanted to produce your own TV show, short film, or podcast? ONTV offers the training, facilities, and equipment to make it happen. To get started, sign up for ONTV's weekly video production classes covering studio production, portable HD camcorders, and non-linear editing. The 10-week workshop costs $20 for Lake Orion residents, $50 for non-residents. Upon completion of the classes, ONTV's facilities and equipment are yours to use at no additional charge. Produce your own talk show, cooking show, or short film. ONTV also offers a 2-night podcast class, which gives you access to equipment to produce your own podcast. For more information, give us a call at 248-693-3377 or visit OrionONTV.org today. The North Oakland Household Hazardous Waste Program's 2019 season is winding down with 3 more events in Oakland County. Volunteers will be on hand to collect cleaners, paint, bleach, batteries, antifreeze, motor oil, electronics, and more. The program is free for residents of Lake Orion. Collection events will take place at the Oakland County Service Center campus in Pontiac on July 20th, Oakland Community College Highland Lakes campus in Waterford on September 7th, and again at the Oakland County Service Center campus in Pontiac on October 12th from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. For a complete list of acceptable items and other information, visit nohaz.com or call their hotline at 248-858-5656.
Welcome back to Lake Orion Football Preview Show on ONTV. I'm your host, Anthony Taormina. Also, you guys have seen me around as the Between Taormina's co-host, and host of History Now, which are both also on ONTV. I'm here with the coaches. I got Coach Blackstock, and I got Coach Dombrowski. Coach, how you doing?
It's great to be here.
Awesome. Coach, how are you doing?
I'm loving it. One of the highlights of the year, always coming back and sitting down and talking with you.
Always a pleasure.
Absolutely.
I want to talk to you guys about the coaching staff. I want to talk to you guys about the coaches. There's been a couple changes, but I wanted to talk to you about names who they are, obviously the coaching experience. I want to start with you, Coach Blackstock.
Sure.
This is your third year of coaching and as a head coach, but you've been around a lot longer working with Coach Bell.
22 years total
Yeah.
in Lake Orion. 1 year coaching at Eastern Michigan after I had graduated and finished playing at Central Michigan. So I've been around a while.
Could you talk to me also about the assistant coaches that you have on staff?
Yeah, I guess first of all I'd bring up that we have a new varsity defensive coordinator. His name is Rick Powell, and Rick came to us from Anchor Bay, where he was a defensive coordinator for 5 years at Anchor Bay, and he was an offensive coordinator at Fraser High School for 2 years previous to that. He played at Defiance College, played quarterback there, and played at Warren Cousino High School for his dad, Coach Mike Powell at Cousino. Really excited. Good young coach, great teacher. He's going to teach math at Lake Orion High School. So it's great having him in the building and the program. Brad Fisher will be back as our offensive coordinator. Brad's been around since 2005. And he's coached a little bit of everything for us. He worked on the offensive side of the ball with Chris for a long time. His last 2 years with Chris, he was a defensive coordinator, and then when I took over, he became our offensive coordinator. Eric Guychuk will be back with the varsity offensive line. Of course, Eric played at Oxford High School and then played at Central Michigan and then played in the NFL, mainly with the Cincinnati Bengals and a couple other teams, to finish out his NFL career. Eric Jennings, everybody knows
Coach
Eric,
E.
Coach E. Coach E will be back. He coaches our tight ends, our Ys. That guy lives at the high school. He's involved in every sport.
You want to talk about mentor to the kids?
And an outstanding mentor to the kids of Lake Orion High School and the community. It's great to have him back, and he's been around for as long as I've been around. Coaching the running backs, we have Mike Heath back. He's been with us for a number of years. Wide receivers, David Wurst, one of our alumni, who played here at Lake Orion and then played at Penn. And defensively, we've got, of course, Rick Powell coaching the safeties and coordinating the defense. Brian Gannon, who came to us a few years ago from Lapeer High School and lives in the community. His kids go to school here. He'll coach our defensive line. Coach Jamie Witt will coach our inside linebackers. He's moving from the safety position that he coached for the last couple of years, and another alumni, Troy Anderley, is back coaching our corners in the secondary, and this will be his second year with us. So excited about those guys on varsity. Our JV staff, really good staff, a lot of alumni, a lot of lettermen, headed up by Coach Vinny Booker, who coordinates the defense for the JV. We've got Jeff Smart, who's the varsity wrestling coach, who's our defensive line coach. And in the secondary, we've got a couple guys doing it that mainly coach on the offensive side of the ball, where we've got Joel Mulcasion, another alumni, coordinating the offense. We've got Blair Williams coaching the offensive line, another alumni. Kyle Larson coaching the wide receivers, who's also another alumni, wide receiver. And Kyle and Joel help in the secondary on the defensive side, and then Mike Kelly coaches the running backs. And Mike's been with us, again, for a number of years. I'll let Dan talk a little bit about the freshman staff.
Awesome.
Yeah. No, we're definitely excited about our staff too. We returned our defensive coordinator from last year, Terry Firestein, who has a couple boys that play in the program too. Jeff Konslick's our O-line coach and been with the program for a good amount of years. We bring back Todd Burke, who back when I started in 2004 was a coach and kind of took a few years off here. He'll be doing running backs for us. We kind of building on the theme of bringing back players. In our secondary, we brought back Blaine Stormer, who's getting back into coaching this year with us too. Jamie Bailey, another former player, is going to be doing defensive backs also. So we're just, it's kind of nice that you talk about like the Lake Orion way or things that ways that we do things. And I didn't grow up in Lake Orion, but like over being a school teacher here for like the last 16 years, you kind of understand that, and just bringing in guys that really, they care about football, but they care about Lake Orion more. And I think that's what makes our staff, freshmen to varsity, so great, is that we want to win football games on the field, but I think we're more really like looking at that higher goal of we want to build kids off the field too, and turn them in, and help them along their way of maturing into, good young men in the community. Because as you can see, we're all here, and we're here for a lifetime, and we want those kids to grow up to be those same dads that are bringing their kids to Lake Orion too. So.
And one other guy on the freshman staff that played for us is James Cathcart, who played defensive line for us and is now back helping. And I just think overall, from freshman to JV and even in our middle school program, we've created a really nice mix of, like Dan said, guys that graduated from Lake Orion, played at Lake Orion, so it's meaningful to them, but also a mix of guys that have come in from outside of the program and didn't play here and maybe didn't coach here. And when you get that mix, it's nice to have fresh new ideas, but also a little bit of that tradition and remembrance of the Lake Orion way.
Speaking of, I want to talk about the importance of having a lot of Lake Orion alumni on staff. Also, the importance of the support staff. Coach Bell, obviously making the transition from head coach to athletic director. Could you talk about how important support staff is to Lake Orion football?
Yeah, I mean, the support staff is huge. Without them, we're not able to be successful. We're not able to do the things that we're able to do. And it's nice having, number one, an athletic director who was a head coach and, has a deep love and appreciation for not only the game of football, but Lake Orion athletics. Him being a letterman and an alumni of Lake Orion himself, it's nice to have somebody to go in and bounce ideas off of and share thoughts with and get his perspective. Support staff, we've got a great guy, Jeff Powell, who helps us with all of our equipment and has us so organized in the equipment room. It's unbelievable. He took over for Kevin Mishak a couple of years ago. Our trainers, Chelsea and Megan, and Megan's going to be out during the fall for a little bit, but we've got Amanda who is stepping in and helping us during the fall, and they're unbelievable. And you can't talk about support without talking about our pep club. Our parents encouraging positive participation. That group is there's not a better one in the state in terms of what they do for our kids and what they do for our coaching staff and helping fundraise and helping take care of the little minor details that really keep the program rolling along off the field so we can keep our focus on the field.
Dan, thank you.
And I guess, I'm sorry to cut you off, but there's so many people, like somebody's going to get left out, but our administration, and our teaching staff, without them and their support of athletics and football, it makes our job a whole lot easier. Because I feel like it is important to all of them. They understand what, like Dan had said, we're trying to do in terms of not only winning games, but trying to develop young men into being champions on the field, of course, but also really champions off the field in the game of life. And their help and support is crucial in us helping our kids develop.
Yeah, I think that goes right with anytime like Coach Blackstock's on Twitter and stuff. It's always one town, one team, one Orion. It's always that focus of we're all in this together, and that whole like cliche of it takes a village, and I think that's really what Coach Blackstock has really tried to build on with the program of what we're going to focus on the field. We're going to try to win those games, but at the end of the day, if you're just worried about being 9-0, then I think you lost the focus of what's really important about the game of football. It's way more than just the game of football. It's everything that goes in after that too.
Returning to alumni, there's a lot of LO alumni who support the Lake Orion football program. Can you guys talk about the importance of that support from the Lake Orion alumni?
Yeah, and the support ranges. It's like a wide spectrum. I mean, some of the support is now they're business owners and they donate, things to our auction, our casino night, or maybe they make a monetary, donation. Maybe the support is just being there in the stands cheering. And for some guys, the support is just an email or a text message or a phone call after a big win or after a tough loss. Giving me support or giving our coaches support and passing along a message of, hey, tell the guys, keep their chins up, or hey, tell the guys, go get this one. This is a big one for us as a program. So that support comes in just a wide variety of ways that they support us, and it's really appreciated, you know. And I'm sure Dan has stories of guys reaching out to him, and I know Coach Booker does too.
Dan?
I think just, you know, you talk about like support in the community. It's just also like those players, like we talked about it on the last segment, you know, about how they're out in the community trying to help support. So it's kind of like a two-way street of, you know, trying to get everybody. And like you said, like, you know, just giving you a high five, or we always talk about, you know, like when players are out in the community of, you know, if you're wearing Lake Orion colors, if you're wearing Lake Orion shirts, you're representing our whole program. And I mean, I think Coach Blackstock would agree that there's nothing better than when a parent or somebody in the community just approaches you and says, like, you know, hey, I was at such and such place, and, you know, like your players were there. And then sometimes like that first initial reaction is like, oh, where is this going? You know, and then it's like, you know, and then they're like, you know, they were really great. They, you know, they cleaned up the table after, and they didn't even have to do that. And so then it's like, all right, you know, like we're good. So I think that's a huge piece too.
I want to talk about the middle school program and the youth program real quick. I want to talk about the middle schools first, because made a change to now there's 2 8th grade teams and there's 2 7th grade teams. Can you talk about the change?
Yeah, you know, we've talked about it for a couple years now, of making that shift to having 2 7th grade, 2 8th grade, kids being combined from all 3 middle schools to make up those teams, as opposed to having a 7th and 8th grade team at each of the 3 middle schools. And you know, there's a lot of reasons why we've talked about it and why we finally went ahead and did it this year. You know, some of them being, you know, to create more consistent coaching. So that we can better ensure that all of our kids are getting a really similar experience in terms of being coached in, you know, our offense and defensive fundamentals and schemes. Our numbers at the middle school are really healthy, you know, and they're not as big as they used to be. All sports have kind of felt that effect, right? But our numbers have been really consistent. The struggle was that one year, our over numbers have been consistent. The struggle was that one year Oakview might have a bigger team and Walden might have a really small team and Scripps might be in the middle. And then the next year it would totally shift. Walden would be really big, Scripps would be really small, and Oakview would be in the middle, which made it hard for those coaching staffs, you know, to plan and organize and create a good competitive practice, which helped prepare them for the games that they were gonna play in. And this will help even those numbers out. So our teams will be much more even in size, which helps with planning. They'll do some practicing together, the 2 7th grade teams. They'll also practice separate a little bit.
I think the key thing, we're right in the middle of middle school camp right now. We just finished up day 2, and just being out there coaching with those teams, it's kind of interesting to see that, like, when you send over the offensive linemen, we're sending over like 20, 24 kids, and I think that's where, you know, you're starting to see that as a 7th grader, as an 8th grader, you can be in the position that you're going to play at the high school, and you can learn those spots where sometimes if you're only 17 kids on the team, then, you know, you might be playing out of position, you know, out of necessity to help that team, you know, and help your team, but that's probably not what is going to be the best spot for you moving forward. So just having that, I think the quality of coaching, we didn't lose any coaches. So when you talk about combining 3 teams into 2 teams, now you're combining it, it's an 8th grade staff. So now you have all of those coaches and their ideas and everybody together that, you know, I think Coach Blackstock's done an awesome job. We went over like everybody that was on the coaching staff, and I mean, I think there are some areas around the, you know, the state where it's like, you know, who's your freshman staff? And it's like you and one other person.
Right.
We just rattled off 7, 8 guys that we carry on the freshman staff for around 50 kids. The varsity staff, there's a large group of coaches there, and I think that's what any parent, any player would want, is that you're getting quality coaching. You're not just one coach out there with 30 kids and trying to coordinate everything. You have position groups, and I think that's what it's going to help huge. And I saw that today at camp, you know, like working with the O-line. We had 24 offensive linemen in the 7th grade, 24 in the 8th grade, and that's
pretty good.
That's huge, because now we're able to, you know, like Coach Blackstock said, like deliver that same message, the same coaching concepts, and they're all in one group hearing it together. And I think it's kind of cool. Like, so for me, like this is my third year. I'm going in the third year as freshman head coach. It was always bringing together like Walden, Scripps, and Oakview. So like right now, like, you know, we're starting up camp, and it's like, you know, who are the quarterbacks? You know, last year there were 3 starting quarterbacks. This year, one of those starting quarterbacks is third string just by default, not anything against their ability to play. It's just we're now one team. So, you know, 3 running backs, somebody's third string. And it's not that they're not a great player. It's not that they're not developing into a great player. It's just that's just the idea of combining where, you know, we'll have those middle school teams, and, you know, as we start to factor in, like, you know, which team, who's on what team, it's building what's best for Lake Orion football going forward. And I think the whole key is, you know, building, like, same thing approach I take as freshmen is, you know, you could ask me what our records were the last couple of years. Honestly, like, the record isn't important to me at freshman. It's developing kids so that when they're with that varsity staff, whether that's as a sophomore or junior or senior, that they're ready to step into that role. And we talked about leadership and, you know, just helping the team win. And I think that's what's important.
You know, and I think one of the things I'm most excited about is I don't think people understood, because they were so involved in it, how the middle school rivalries, you know, really kind of became counterproductive over the past few years. And it's been a struggle when they come together as a freshman to build that cohesive team and brotherhood and bond when we still had in the back of our mind those middle school rivalries. You know, and this helps with that, creating that bond of a 7th grade. The 7th grade will warm up together, they'll practice together a bit, sure, they'll split for their 2 teams, and then they'll come back and finish practice together. And same thing with 8th grade. So all those guys are learning each other and who each other is, where in the past, like, we would have the freshman season over with, and there would still be freshmen on the team that didn't know guys on the team, because they still just kind of hung out in their Oakview group, their Walden group, and their Scripps group. So I think we're already seeing the benefits at it in our second day of camp with the middle schoolers, of them combining and getting to know each other better.
Awesome. I want to talk about the schedule.
Sure.
We'll talk about the sub-varsity schedule in a few minutes. Well, I want to talk about the schedule first. Start the season at Lapeer.
Yep.
Lapeer, a very, very good team, very strong program.
Yep. Physical, rugged, fundamentally sound.
Then we have 2 home games with Southfield A&T. Then we host Rochester Adams.
2 really talented teams.
2 really good teams.
They're going to have really good athletes and really well coached.
Then we go to Oxford week 4. The Double O Trophy is on the line. So we don't have the trophy here. Gotta get that back.
That table looks a whole lot better with that trophy.
You love that trophy, right? I know.
Well, the brother loves it more.
Hey, and we know what we're in store for right that week. It's the same every year.
Yep.
And they took it to us last year. Physically, they dominated the game, and they rightfully have that trophy. And our job is to go get it back.
Week 5, we host West Bloomfield.
Exciting game.
Very athletic, very good team, well coached team as well. Week 6 at Bloomfield Hills.
Love going down to Bloomfield Hills. Love playing in their stadium. There's just a kind of a feel of the fans being close to the field, and you know, they've got some good athletes, and I think their staff is probably one of the more underrated staffs of being able to get out of their kids more than a lot of people would expect. So always a fun time going down there and playing the Blackhawks.
Host Rochester for homecoming.
Yeah, which is going to be a great game. I don't remember the last year we played them.
I think it was 2012, 2013.
I know it was a long time ago. It was 12 or 13. I have a picture of me holding my son, and he's just tiny out on the field. So it's good to get back to playing those guys.
At Clarkston week 8.
Always look forward to playing one of those blue and gold teams. And you know, a lot of people don't like it. I love going over there. I love playing there at their place, and that'll be another one of the Football for a Cure games, which adds a little bit of specialness to it. so we're excited about week 8.
Then host Monroe week 9.
Which is a really solid team, as they showed last year. And, they've got a number of guys back, so that should be another exciting and always challenging game for us.
What's your take about that schedule?
It's kind of the same, right? You got a super challenging OAA red schedule, which, man, there's no breathers. Every game is a battle, and it's a toss-up, and you better bring your A game every week. And then our non-conference schedule is just as challenging. You had mentioned Lapeer, and they were in the regional final last year.
Yep.
In a really tight game against Clarkston, and Monroe is a playoff team, and has some really rugged and physical and talented kids down there as well. So it's the same schedule Lake Orion has, and we wouldn't want it any other way. I know that you've asked and other people have asked, like, should we move down? And absolutely not. There's no way that Chris or I would ever want to move down. We should never move down. I'd rather play in one of the toughest leagues. Whether you make the playoffs or not, let's challenge ourselves and see where we really stack up with the state's best.
Dan, I wanted to ask you the schedule, because the sub-varsity schedule is actually different. Why is that?
I think just going down that varsity schedule, you just understand that, like we just talked about, how every single one of those games is competitive. And in the last segment, we talked about, in the off season, like when you're not in football, why are you in basketball? Why are you in lacrosse? It's because you want to compete. And I think for us at the lower levels, that's what we want to instill in the kids too, is that level of competition. And I mean, we're very fortunate in Lake Orion. Like our numbers, like freshman wise, we carry anywhere between high 40s, like low 50s, somewhere in there. And when you go into where we used to, like when I used to coach, like 10 years ago, we'd go into some games and the freshman team across the field has 13 kids. And that's just not an ideal situation for anyone. That's not an ideal situation for us to compete. It's not an ideal situation for them to compete. So I think the athletic directors have done a really good job. I know sometimes, like, we have to double up. We play,
Split
teams
squad.
the same. We Coach Bell, or athletic director Bell, does a good job of scheduling us some split squad games where, you know what, we'll take 21 kids and go. Last year we took 21 kids and we played Rochester, and you know what, we lost, but in that 21, in that game, those 21 kids got a whole lot of snaps. And I think when we focus on the lower levels of building competitive players so that when they get to varsity, now they're able to take on that schedule that you just ran down. But going into a game where the other team is just physically not able to compete, it's not good for anyone in general. And I like the competition. I have more fun. I know it's going to sound weird to say, I have more fun in a game that, we might lose in the fourth quarter, last minute, 24-21, than beating a team 63-0. There's just not that level of competition and getting that heart rate going, and knowing that every snap matters and every possession matters. That's the competitiveness that we want to instill in the kids. Not that we just beat a team 60-something to nothing. It's just not good for morale. So I enjoy the competitive schedule. Going down that list, I mean, honestly, I think we're going to play about that schedule. Looking at what we have. Lapeer had an outstanding freshman team last year. I think we went into our 4-way scrimmage last year and came out of that feeling pretty confident. Like we had done some good things, and then we were on the road at Lapeer last year as freshmen, and they took it to us.
They were pretty good last year. They hit us. Their record was pretty good last year.
It was a really solid team, and I think that was a wake-up call for the season that, we got to learn to compete here. And, I think that's the whole purpose of that competitive schedule, so that when they get to junior, senior year, sophomores, if they're up on varsity, that they understand, like, what you need to play football in the OAA.
There was a lot of competitive freshman teams last year too, as there was competitive JV teams.
Correct. That's why our JV played some really good teams. I mean, just hung right in there. So.
I want to talk to you guys about your expectations for the season. I'm going to start with Coach Dombrowski, and then I'll go with Coach Blackstock. What's your expectations for the year?
It's real simple for us. I always use the motto. Gus Bradley used to be a coach at Jacksonville Jaguars. His whole motto was that, you can have all these slogans and everything. It boiled down to 2 words: get better. And I think that's what we really try to focus on at the freshman level is just getting better every day. Whether it's O-lineman learning to block better, catching the ball, hitting the routes. We spent a ton of time in the off season, developing the offense and stuff. My wife would attest that we spent a lot of coaches meetings and stuff in January through June here and into July of just developing that offense, and this is what it looks like at varsity, and what does it look like all the way down to the youth league now, and just kind of building up to that. So I think that's what we want to do. We want to get better at the basics at freshman level, so that when they move on to JV, they can add a little bit more, and then when they get to varsity, you're not starting your June camps, your July camps with what is this basic route concept. It's like, Coach, we already learned that as freshmen, and we mastered that as sophomores. Now we're ready to get rolling, and I think that's what I'm most excited about. I think in the last segment, the players were talking about that we've kind of been building 3 and 6, 5 and 4, and I honestly think that's this year where we want to take that step.
Coach Blackstock?
Expectations. I always expect us to be, the most fundamental team on the field. Have the best fundamentals, be the most physical team on the field, and win the next game. And I think you're hearing a common theme from the players that were on in the first segment, and Dan is our freshman coach. That it's get better. Our motto for the year is attack success, and I think that's the direction our kids have really gone, of not just wanting things to happen, but understanding they need to go attack it, whether it's in off-season training, whether it's at our own camp, or whether it's at practice, or whether it's in a game. We can't sit back and wait for things to happen. We've got to go attack it and make things happen ourselves. So those are my expectations. Be physical, be fundamental, and win the next game.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Coach.
No problem.
Thank you very, very much, Coach.
Always a pleasure.
I encourage fans to come out to Dragon Stadium, come support the Lake Orion football team. All 3 levels, freshman, junior varsity, and varsity. And if you're not able to be there, come and watch us on Orion ONTV. Great programming, great guys announcing. It's a great experience. All right, Lake Orion, have a great evening. Take care, and see you at a football game. Take care.